So you finally decide to make a change. Like maybe you commit to getting up at 5 a.m. to write that novel you've been talking about for
Right, a
years.
classic goal.
Yeah, or maybe you launch a side business, or I don't know, you just decide to take your health seriously and you actually walk into a gym.
Always a tough first step.
It is. And
Yeah.
you are motivated, right? You're quietly putting in the work. But then within maybe a week or two, you hit this completely bizarre, unexplainable friction.
Yeah, the wall.
Exactly. And the wildest part is that the friction isn't coming from the difficulty of the work itself.
No, it rarely does.
It's coming from your best friend, or, it's coming from your favorite coworker. Suddenly, the people closest to you are dropping these subtle, passive-aggressive comments,
Oh, yeah.
or they're actively trying to pull you back to the exact spot you were trying to leave.
It is a profound shock to the system,
Yeah.
honestly. I mean, we're conditioned to expect resistance from the task itself. We know writing a book is hard. We know building a business is hard.
Right, we brace for that.
We do. But we do not expect the resistance to come from our own social circle. It violates the basic social contract we think we have with our peers.
It really does. It leaves you feeling completely disoriented. Like you start questioning your own behavior. You wonder if you're being arrogant or if you're suddenly just insufferable to be around.
Yeah, you turn it inward.
Right. You think, why does my positive momentum make everyone in my orbit so deeply uncomfortable?
It's a great question.
And that specific, incredibly frustrating phenomenon is exactly what we are taking apart in today's deep dive. We're looking at a brilliant essay called The Quiet Build by Joseph Sack. He's the founder of Veralink Inc.
It's such a good piece. The text is basically a surgical breakdown of human behavior. Sack isn't just offering, some generic productivity guide here.
No, definitely not.
He is looking squarely at the social dynamics of competence, the mechanics of comparison, and why the people around you just, panic when you start to improve.
Yeah, panic is the right word.
Hmm.
Our mission today is to decode the hidden psychology driving that resentment. We want to equip you with the mental framework to understand what is actually happening in the room when someone undercuts your progress.
So you don't take it personally.
Exactly, so you can keep building without losing your footing or your sanity.
Hmm. Okay, let's unpack this. Because to understand why someone reacts poorly to your forward momentum, we have to establish the psychological baseline they are operating from.
Which is pretty bleak right now.
Yeah, Sack calls this modern baseline industrial scale self-doubt.
What's fascinating here is that we really cannot analyze interpersonal friction in a vacuum.
Right.
We have to look at the environment. Sack presents this idea that inadequacy is no longer just like a fleeting personal emotion.
Right.
It has been literally built into the infrastructure of our daily lives. I mean, think about the mechanics of the modern digital landscape. We are constantly navigating these curated feeds.
It's nonstop.
It is. We have algorithmic exposure to everyone else's absolute peak moments. It is a massive evolutionary mismatch. Like, the human brain evolved to handle social comparison within a very small tribe, maybe 150 people max.
Yes, Dunbar's number.
Right. And in that tribal setting, maybe one person is the best hunter, another is the best storyteller. You had a place. You could compete on a local level.
You had context.
Yeah, but now you open your phone while you're literally still in bed, and before you've even had coffee, an algorithm serves you a video of someone your exact age who just sold a tech company for $1 billion.
And they run ultra marathons.
And they have a perfect family. It's insane.
The brain simply cannot metabolize that volume of upward comparison. It's impossible.
Yeah.
It interprets all that data and basically concludes that you are failing at a catastrophic level.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's heavy.
It is. What this infrastructure creates is a perpetual default state of not enough. Not enough income, not enough credentials, not enough influence. It establishes a baseline where people feel fundamentally inadequate before they even begin their day.
Before they even brush their teeth.
Exactly. And the true danger here, the insidious part of this system, is that the doubt is entirely invisible to the person experiencing it. It doesn't feel manufactured by some tech company's engagement metrics.
It just feels real.
It just feels like objective reality. It's the water everyone is swimming in. And when inadequacy is the water, you don't notice the water. You just feel like you inherently do not know how to swim.
I love that. It's like trying to navigate a city where the gravity has been cranked up by 20% by some giant magnet underground.
That's a great way to put it.
Because you can't see the magnet, right? And because everyone else around you is also struggling to walk, you don't realize you're dealing with an artificial environmental condition.
You just think it's normal.
Yeah, you look around at the collective struggle and you just assume you are physically weak. You internalize the difficulty as a personal failure rather than, a manufactured condition.
So you have this massive population walking around in this heavy gravity, essentially operating from a state of invisible ambient pain. And human beings are biologically wired to seek relief from pain.
Usually through the path of least resistance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which brings us to the coping mechanism. If everyone is drowning in this baseline feeling of inadequacy, how are they surviving it?
Right.
Sack points out that instead of doing the grueling, unglamorous work of building their own solid foundation, they try a quick fix. They try to borrow someone else's foundation.
Borrowing a foundation. How does that actually work in practice?
Well, when a person lacks the internal proof that they can achieve something, they borrow identity from external sources. They mimic the aesthetics of success. Sack observes this happening constantly.
Like people faking it till they make it.
Basically, people will aggressively adopt founder terminology in their bios without actually running a business. Or they will buy the really expensive, highly specific gear for a hobby.
Oh, like showing up to play tennis with a $300 racket but no swing?
Precisely. They mimic the vocabulary of experts without putting in the underlying reps. They are performing a confidence they absolutely have not earned.
Wait, hold on. I mean, don't we copy our parents to learn how to talk? And we shadow mentors when we enter a new profession? Isn't imitation just a core human learning trait? Why is it suddenly a toxic borrowed identity here?
That is a crucial distinction. Imitation absolutely is how we learn, provided the imitation is paired with actual labor.
Okay.
You shadow a mentor, but then you actually do the spreadsheets or you meet the sales calls yourself. The toxicity Sack is identifying occurs when a person is unwilling to do the friction-heavy work behind the scenes.
They just want the shiny stuff.
They only want the aesthetic. They want the social reward of being the expert or the founder without the vulnerability of being a beginner.
Because you cannot physically copy your way into a real foundation. Like, you can't fake calluses on your hands.
Exactly. And a borrowed identity always has a shelf life. The pressure of maintaining a facade without structural support is immense.
It must be exhausting.
It is. Eventually, a situation arises that demands actual competence. And when that happens, a glaring gap opens up between the surface-level aesthetic they're projecting and the total lack of foundation underneath.
The expiration date hits.
Yes. And when that borrowed identity collapses, they experience severe cognitive dissonance. It is incredibly painful to admit to yourself, I am pretending to be something I am not.
Right, that's an ego-shattering realization.
So instead of turning inward and doing the hard work, the ego protects itself by turning outward. It attacks the person who actually possesses the foundation.
Wow, so they resent you because you are living proof that the foundation requires actual labor. Like, your real momentum just holds a mirror right up to their shortcut.
That is exactly it. And this specific backlash against the builder is ancient. I mean, it is not just a byproduct of modern social media.
No, definitely not. Sack highlights how cultures worldwide have been naming and warning us about this exact dynamic for centuries, which is just fascinating.
There really is.
Like, he unpacks the cross-cultural terminology. In Australia, they refer to it as tall poppy syndrome. The idea is that the poppy flower that grows taller than the rest of the field is the one that immediately gets its head cut off by the farmer's scythe.
Stick out.
Right. And then in the Philippines, the phenomenon is known as crab mentality.
Ah, the crabs in the bucket.
Yes. If you put a bunch of crabs in a bucket, they could easily climb out one by one. But the moment one crab actually figures out how to climb up the side and escape, the other crabs will literally reach up and drag it back down into the bucket.
It's such a visceral image.
It really is. And in Japan, there's a very direct proverb. The nail that sticks up gets hammered down.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, we start to understand the mechanics of why that universal hammer comes out. We have this cultural tendency to assume that if someone is receiving heavy criticism, they must have provoked it somehow.
Like they asked for it.
Right. We assume they must have cheated or acted arrogantly or, harmed someone on their way up. But Sack argues the hammer is not a response to malice.
Not at all.
The hammer is swung strictly because the active builder's visible momentum creates a stark comparison.
Think of it like sitting in a crowded movie theater. Everyone is sitting down, passively watching the screen. If you suddenly decide to stand up to stretch your legs, you instantly ruin the view for everyone choosing to stay seated directly behind you.
That's a perfect analogy.
You aren't trying to hurt them, you aren't attacking them, you are literally just stretching. But your physical elevation becomes their obstacle. It blocks their view. So what do? They yell at you to sit back down.
Naturally.
But they don't yell at you because you committed a crime. They yell at you because you're standing up forces them to make a really uncomfortable choice. They either have to stand up themselves, which requires effort, or they have to stay seated and stare at your back.
And standing up is hard, so they choose to complain. The static observer demands that you sit back down because your suppression restores their comfort for free. It requires zero effort on their part.
It's the cheapest solution for them.
Exactly. But this divergence in behavior is where the psychology gets really nuanced. If the static observer naturally reaches for the hammer when they see someone else succeed, why doesn't the active builder do the same thing?
Yeah, that's the real question.
When someone who is actually laying bricks sees another person winning, they don't swing a hammer.
Right. Sack attributes this to a fundamental, deeply ingrained divergence in how these two groups view reality itself. It's the framework of scarcity versus abundance mindsets, but applied specifically to the mechanics of personal achievement.
Let's look at the evolutionary roots of that scarcity mindset for a second. For early humans, survival often was a zero-sum game.
Yeah.
If a neighboring tribe found the best hunting ground, your tribe might starve.
So it was literally life or death.
Yes, the scarcity mindset believes in a fixed pie. There is only a finite amount of success, a finite amount of social standing, and a finite amount of respect available in any given room.
Okay, I see where this is going.
Through that fixed pie lens, your personal win is processed by their brain as a literal loss for them. Your increasing visibility inherently means they're being pushed into the shadows.
Wow. It makes their hostility almost logical under those parameters. Like, if the pie is fixed, me taking a slice means you get less. You basically have to attack me to protect your potential slice.
It is logical to them, but an abundance mindset operates on an entirely different plane. Abundance understands that success is not a finite resource being allocated by some central authority. It is generated from scratch.
It's made, not found.
Yes. When an active builder sees someone else succeed, their threat response isn't triggered at all. They know the pie just expanded. And more importantly, they possess the internal capability to bake their own pie.
Sack makes a critical distinction here, though. He argues that this difference between scarcity and abundance isn't just a matter of having a sunny disposition or being a naturally optimistic person.
Oh, not at all. It's not about personality. The difference is entirely rooted in having a proven foundation. People operating from abundance have subjected themselves to difficult processes. They have attempted hard things. They have failed. They have endured the absolute humiliation of being a beginner.
Ugh, the worst phase.
It is.
Oh.
But they have recovered from those setbacks. And through that friction, they have generated internal proof that they can build.
And that proof changes everything.
It acts as a psychological shield. They do not need to extract value or status from anyone else because they know exactly how to generate it themselves.
Because they've done it.
Yes. Whereas people who have avoided doing hard things lack that internal proof. They have no foundation, which means their entire sense of self-worth is dangerously dependent on remaining superior to the people immediately around them.
So, okay, if you are listening to this right now and you are trying to diagnose the people around you, maybe you are looking at your office dynamic or your friend group.
Which is a tough thing to look at, honestly.
It is. But how do you quickly identify who is actually building a foundation and who is just a static observer hiding a hammer behind their back?
Sack offers a highly effective diagnostic tool for this exact scenario. He calls it the gym test, and it relies on observing real-world ecosystems of self-improvement.
The gym test is brilliant in its simplicity. Walk us through how it works.
So if you look at gym culture, you will notice a universal behavioral pattern. The people who are in there consistently, the ones doing the grueling, heavy physical work day after day, they never shame a beginner.
Never.
When someone completely out of shape walks through the door and picks up the 5-pound weights, the veterans do not laugh.
Right. They don't even blink.
No. They might give a subtle nod of respect,
Yeah.
might step in to spot them if asked, or they might just keep their headphones on and focus entirely on their own sets, but they absolutely do not shame the person struggling at the starting line.
Because the veterans intimately remember the psychological vulnerability of walking through those doors for the first time. They know the exact price of the foundation.
Builders do not shame other builders.
Yeah.
Whether it is building physical muscle, building a startup, or even just building a new mental habit. They recognize the shared struggle.
Yeah, game recognizes game.
Exactly. They might mentor you, they might ignore you, or they might engage in intense, healthy competition with you.
Oh,
But they will not try to diminish your effort. And this raises an important question.
which is,
If the regulars at the gym aren't the ones laughing at the beginners, and the successful founders aren't the ones mocking the small startups, where is the shaming actually originating from?
so what does this all mean? The shaming always, without exception, originates from people who are not doing the work.
Yes.
It comes from the people sitting on the sidelines. It comes from people whose incredibly fragile self-concept feels actively threatened by your willingness to try.
It's a projection.
Pure projection. And this is the massive paradigm shift for you as you navigate this friction. When someone criticizes or shames you for trying to improve your life, it is never information about you or the quality of your work. It is entirely information about the massive, painful gap between who the shamer thinks they should be and who they actually are.
Internalizing that framework alters the entire dynamic. Once you see the criticism as a forced confession of their own stagnation, the sting is removed. The emotional weight of their comment just evaporates.
Because it's not about you anymore.
Right. But it still leaves you with a tactical problem. You recognize the psychology, you know it's a reflection of their insecurity, but how do you actually handle the interaction in the moment?
Yeah. What do you do when your coworker drops a condescending remark about your new initiative right in the middle of a meeting? Or your friend subtly mocks your new routine at dinner?
It's tough.
How do you navigate that without getting dragged into an argument and pulled right back into the bucket of crabs? Sack details a very specific, highly disciplined response strategy. He calls it observation without reaction.
It's brilliant, but it requires overriding your biological instinct to defend yourself. When you encounter this resentment, Sack's strategy dictates that you mentally name the pattern. You acknowledge it internally.
Like a mental sticky note.
Yes, you say to yourself, there's the crab mentality, there's the hammer. You do not pretend the hostility isn't there.
Yeah.
But, and this is the hinge upon which the entire strategy rests, you absolutely do not engage with it externally.
So you don't try to explain your reasoning.
Right.
You don't get defensive and list your accomplishments to prove them wrong. And you certainly don't start performing your success louder just to spite them.
You have to understand what the shamer's brain is seeking in that moment. Confrontation is the goal.
They want the fight.
Yes. If you get angry or defensive, it proves that their resentment successfully penetrated your armor. The shamer desperately wants a reaction from you because your reaction is a mechanism of extraction.
An extraction.
Yes, they're trying to extract your focus, your emotional energy, and your equilibrium to pull you off your foundation and bring you down to their baseline.
Wow, so giving them a reaction is literally giving them what they want.
Exactly. Denying the reaction starves them of that extraction.
Ah.
Silence in this scenario is not avoidance or weakness. Silence is a highly precise tactical maneuver.
I love that.
It communicates without a single syllable being uttered. I see exactly what you're doing. I am not threatened by it, and I am not going to halt my forward momentum to service your stagnation. It removes their leverage completely.
It's exactly like dealing with an automated telemarketer.
Oh, that's a good comparison.
Right, because if you pick up the phone and start arguing, even if you are passionately yelling at them to stop calling and take you off their list, you've just proven to their system that your phone line is active.
You validated the number.
Exactly. You have given them the one piece of data they actually want. A live reactive connection. So they will keep calling. But if you just let it ring, if you observe the call coming in, recognize the pattern, and let it go to voicemail without a single reaction.
The system eventually registers a deadline.
Yes, and they drop you from the queue. You starve the behavior of the oxygen it needs to survive.
You starve the static observer of the validation they need to justify their own lack of movement.
Which brings us to the ultimate synthesis of this deep dive. After breaking down the algorithms of doubt, the psychology of borrowed identities, and the tactics of the static observer, Sack leaves us with a mandate that is incredibly simple, but brutally difficult to execute.
Build anyway.
Build anyway. The environment will not change. Keep going to the gym, keep writing the code, keep launching the projects.
Keep waking up at the time you committed to waking up.
Yes, the physical execution of the work is the only variable you actually control. Some people are going to resent your momentum. That is just a mathematical certainty.
It's inevitable.
And some people will attempt to copy your aesthetic without adopting your work ethic. That is also a certainty. And some people will reach for the heaviest hammer they can find the exact moment you start blocking their view of the screen.
But none of that is your problem to solve. Your only mandate is to keep your foundation solid while the rest of the world attempts to negotiate with it.
True competence is silent. It does not need to announce itself or defend itself against stagnation.
No, it doesn't. If you maintain the discipline of the quiet build, the noise generated by the static observers will eventually fade. And more importantly, the people operating from abundance, the actual builders in the room, will eventually recognize your foundation and find you.
It's the quiet build, and it's the only foundation that actually holds weight. We spent this deep dive analyzing the mechanics of the static observer. We've mapped out the tools you need to handle the people swinging the hammers.
It's a lot to process.
It is. But as we close out, there is one final, deeply provocative question that emerges from this text. Something for you to dissect on your own time.
Okay, lay it on them.
If you take a brutally honest inventory of your own life right now, looking at your own social circles and professional environments, is there an area where you are the one acting as the static observer?
Oof, turning the mirror around.
Yeah. Are you secretly hoping a friend's new venture fails because it makes your current job feel small? Are you rolling your eyes at a peer's ambition? Are there any hidden hammers in your own hands that you need to acknowledge and put down so you can stop guarding the bucket and finally get back to building your own foundation?
That's the real work, isn't it? As long as your energy is focused on swinging a hammer at someone else's foundation, you have zero energy left to lay your own bricks.
Exactly. You expect personal growth to be a clean, solitary process, but the friction is part of the architecture. Remember the underground magnet? Remember the movie theater? When someone tells you to sit down because you're ruining their view, your only responsibility is to stretch higher. Keep building. We'll catch you on the next one.